2017 meeting of the Stafford County Board of Supervisors is called to order. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Ms. Bumke?
Here.
Mr. Cavalier?
Here.
Mrs. Maurer?
Here.
Mr. Milday?
Here.
Ms. Sellers?
Here.
Mr. Snellings?
Here.
Mr. Thomas?
Here.
Mr. Chairman, you have a quorum.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon. My name is Paul Milday. I am the chairman of the board, obviously, but I also represent the Aquia District, the district in which we sit, and I will for the next 5 weeks. I've been proud to do that for 12 years. This is a week ago from Saturday. We held our first Veterans Day ceremony at the Armed Services Memorial behind us, past the parking lot. And so on behalf of Stafford County and the Board of Supervisors, I want to thank everyone who has served and is serving and their families. As we all know, freedom is not free, and we appreciate the service of all of those who have kept our country safe. We'll have a discussion later about letting the county pay for people who actually died, Staffordians who have died serving their country. We'd like to at least sponsor their bricks in the memorial, I believe, is where that discussion will go. Upcoming holidays. Obviously, the holiday season is upon us. Thursday is Thanksgiving, and I wish everyone a wonderful time with their friends and their families and lots of food. Most of Stafford's offices will be closed starting on Wednesday. They'll close on Wednesday through Friday. The exception is the landfill, which is only closed on Thanksgiving Day, and the parks and public safety, of course, will be open from Wednesday through, yeah, with the exception of public safety is open all the time. Are the parks open on Thanksgiving? No. My notes say they are, but I don't know if that's true. Also, I'd like to recognize that Friday, November 24th, 2017, is Native American Heritage Day. President Bush signed this day into law to pay tribute to Native Americans for their many contributions to life in the United States. And we have something to do for Mr. Wine, correct? Are you familiar with this? Would Josh Wine of Parks and Rec and Community Facilities please come forward? Our property management staff has done an incredible job maintaining the Armed Services Memorial, and it looks as good today as it did the day it opened, the day it was dedicated, and that was an important mission. To that end, Josh Wine noticed that visitors were coming to the memorial and leaving coins and other memorabilia. He thought visitors would want to see those items, so he's designed this case for that. Supervisor Gary Snellings, who is a member of the Armed Services Memorial Commission and who has really led the effort from our side of things to make that happen, and he's done a great job at it. So he and I would like to recognize Josh for going above and beyond in service to those honored at the memorial.
Well, since Paul took my speech,
Hey, sorry, Gary.
I just want to take this opportunity to thank you, Josh. This is great. We didn't really think about people leaving stuff at the memorial, but as you can see, they do, which is great. I mean, they'll come in, there's a brick for their loved one or friend, and they'll decide to leave a challenge coin or whatever. And we certainly didn't want that stuff to go away, but we didn't think about it. He did. So he came out and just built this beautiful case, and I'm sure you're going to be building others because this is probably going to fill up pretty fast. But we really want to thank you for your initiative, but thank you for what you did for the memorial.
Thank you.
And this is, correct me if I'm wrong, but this is going to be in the lobby, correct? Great. Thanks, Josh.
Thanks, Josh. And we've come to the additions and deletions and approval of the agenda part of our agenda. So I'm going to ask for a motion to approve, but I believe we have an addition or a deletion from the agenda as it's written. We've deleted item 20, and that will be moved to the 19th of December. Yes.
Yes.
Yes. If we delete item, which is my proclamation.
Mr. Chairman, that will move to the 19th to coincide with the other proclamations recognizing board members.
That was a little premature. And also, Ms. Maurer?
And then there's the addition of item number 27.
The addition of item number 27.
And I would also like to make a motion to approve the agenda also removing item number 22. And it is considering a regional transportation authority and asking the legislative body to give us the opportunity to create a regional transportation authority. Essentially, I think this is a little premature for this board, considering we're going to have at least 2, potentially 3 new board members. And if we're going to ask the legislative body, Richmond, to approve a transportation authority, it should be done with those that are actually going to eventually vote on the transportation authority. So with that, I make that motion.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion and seconded by Ms. Baumke. All right, please cast your votes to approve the amended agenda. And you may tally those when you're ready. That passes unanimously. Now, if you've come to speak on that issue or any of the issues that are removed, you're welcome to do so. That particular issue is going to come before us and be hotly debated, and at least 4 of the members here will still be here in a decision-making capacity, God willing, next year. That brings us to presentations by the public. We welcome the involvement and the participation of the public. At this meeting, there are 2 opportunities, one now at 3 o'clock and one at 7, to address the board on an issue that's not on for public hearing. So if there's a public hearing at 7 p.m. that you'd like to speak to, this is not the time to do that. And if you speak to us now about an item in this open setting, you won't be able to speak to that same issue at 7 p.m. Obviously, you have be respectful and polite. Address the board, not the crowd. You'll have 3 minutes. When you come up, you'll state your name and your address, and you'll get a green light. You can start your speaking, and then at 2 minutes, you get a yellow light. That's your 1 minute warning, and at red, you are finished speaking, and we hope you'll return to your seat. And with that, I have a couple of speaker cards. I actually have a list of speakers, and Ms. Gregory Gavin is my first. If you'd like to come up. You know the drill. It's good to see you again.
Hi, my name is Gregory Daniel Gavin, 242 Stony Hill Road in Hartwood. I would like to speak today about the environmental damage wrongfully inflicted to the 50-foot buffer zone that surrounds Lake Curtis. If we can go to the first picture, please. That's a picture of Lake Curtis. The lake, along with its 50-foot buffer zone of land, was ceded to the Commonwealth of Virginia in 1976 by Stafford County. It's maintained by David Whitehurst, a director with the Virginia Department of Game and Inland Fisheries, along with his staff of carrying biologists. The rest of Curtis Park is, of course, controlled by Stafford County Park Authority and ultimately by the members of this chamber. Next picture, please. I'd like to bring to your attention the shocking environmental damage inflicted upon the tree line and coastline of the lake within the 50-foot protected buffer. The clear cutting, which is obviously wrong, began in 2014 and continued even after repeated verbal and written warnings by Mr. Whitehurst and his staff. Unauthorized cutting down of vegetation in a park is a violation of Virginia Code 18.2-140 and is a Class 3 misdemeanor. Next picture, please. The damage to the lake was immediate, as you can see by the water quality of this photo. These photos were taken 1 week apart during the December 2016 violation, approximately a year ago. It was back in December. Next picture, please. As I exposed the clear cutting here, like I said, that was done in December. I went and took pictures last month. It has grown back. They wanted to cut again, believe it or not. That little bit, they wanted to snub down again. I spoke up against it. As I expose the clear cutting and environmental damage, please notice how brazen and ruthless the violators' actions are to the land. The perpetrator cuts trees with confidence down to the dirt in full public view with little concern for adverse recourse, even though they have been warned in writing by the Commonwealth of Virginia. Next picture, please. I have 3 or 4 of these. You can just before and after. They're self-explaining. I'll keep reading. They thought no one cared. They thought nobody would speak up and press the issue. They were wrong. They were wrong. I cared. I did press the issue. Maybe you care as well. Next picture, please. After the fourth warning issued by Mr. Whitehurst in August of 2017, that was just a couple months ago, the illegal cutting finally ceased, but has the potential to start up again here in December in the winter months, particularly when no one is likely to bear witness and expose the criminal violations. Moving forward, Mr. Whitehurst, realizing the loss of the control of the border, has moved to have the entire perimeter of the lake surveyed at his department's expense. Stafford will benefit from the survey, as colored markers will delineate county land from Commonwealth land. A clear understanding of the borders, rights and responsibilities will ensue, and hopefully a proper stewardship of the land in the future. If anyone could please take a moment to thank Mr. David Whitehurst and his staff for their efforts. If you have any questions or comments to share, please call him. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. My next speaker is Councilman Matt Kelly, who's a friend to Stafford, and I've worked with also for 12 years in regional.
Matt Kelly, resident of the city of Fredericksburg, also represent the city on the city council and also VRE Operations Board, PRTC, and FAMPO on the transportation side. Still would like to comment a little bit this afternoon on the Transportation Authority, or should I say a request only to direct the General Assembly to give us the authority. This is only to begin a conversation that frankly we need to have with our community. Transportation is critical to this region. And frankly, doing nothing has costs. We're already seeing a degradation in economic development opportunities with the congestion on the highways, quality of life issues. We are also the fastest growing region, and this is not going away. To give you an example of what we're facing is this. Last night, some of you were given the latest briefing that we received on the future funding for our CLRP, Constrained Long Range Plan. And the dollars projected are now going from $941 million down to $761 million. We are losing ground rapidly. And I said constrained. We have done an unconstrained plan based on the current development plans of Stafford, Spotsylvania, and the city. In that regard, we are $10 billion short in providing the transportation infrastructure to meet our long-term development needs. The other problem we have now is something called smart scale. I'm not going to go into a lot of detail on it because it's been talked about, I've written about it, and some of you have heard me say this over and over and again. I don't want to keep beating a dead horse. But the fact of the matter is, outgoing Secretary of Transportation Aubrey Lane has pretty much told us that our latest project, Northbound 95 project, is not going to get funded because we do not have the funds to leverage to make it viable. In addition to that, we have issues with the fact that most of our commuters are not counted in the commuter matrix with regard to that because they only look at 45 minutes, not 60. And I can go down the list of rating interstate projects by their impact on the locality only and not looking at it in the context of the entire interstate system. We spent all last year trying to get VDOT and the CTB to make some changes to bring this in line, and they have gone nowhere. Nobody likes raising taxes, nor do I. But this is the reality we face. Without additional funding, we cannot meet the transportation needs. And if we do nothing, the roads are going to continue to get worse. We are going to lose economic development opportunities. We are going to have our quality of life continue to be degraded. We need to work on this. We owe it to our constituents to tell them what the problem is. We owe it to them to give them all the options and let them make a decision. And all we're asking is let's start the discussion and ask the General Assembly to let us move forward with the discussion on Transportation Authority. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kelly. Thank you for your service to the region. You do a lot of, you're certainly dedicated and put a lot of time into this. Did you tell me that we had a list of names? No, the list is for the public hearing. I see, thank you. All right, those are my only two speaker cards for an item that's not a public hearing. So I will open up the chamber to anyone who would like to address the board. Same rules apply. Come on down.
Good afternoon, Board of Supervisors and staff, and happy Thanksgiving coming up in just a couple of days. My name is Bill Johnson Miles. I live at 27 Allegheny Drive. I'm a retired 20-year Navy veteran. I also just retired from working for the Marine Corps with a total of 34 years of public service. So I'm hoping you'll see a little bit more of me even now. I'm also a member of the Stafford Democratic Committee, and I'm also a member of the Stafford NAACP, although I'm not speaking for them, I'm speaking just for myself today. I'm speaking regarding the huge racist Confederate flag along I-95 that's flying along I-95 near the Truslow overpass. The issue is not First Amendment rights and freedom of speech. No one is saying that the flaggers or the property owner does not have a right to fly a Confederate flag. What we are upset about is how tall and how big the flag is and where it's located, like a huge sign saying that Stafford is a racist county. I've seen your message on your website, and you state that it's not. So we should be doing something about that. Whatever you decide regarding the Planning Commission zoning complaint that's been submitted, the county is going to get sued one way or the other, either by the flaggers or by those who submitted the complaint. So why not do the right thing and do not align yourself with hatred and discrimination? Instead, stand for equality, inclusivity, and tolerance. Live up to that statement you have on your website. Vote in favor of the complaint. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson Miles, and thank you for your service to our country. All right.
Good afternoon. My name is Kyle Allwine. I'm a resident of Spotsylvania County. I'm also a member of the staff at the Fredericksburg Regional Chamber of Commerce. Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the board, for your time today. I'm coming to you today on behalf of the Fredericksburg Regional Chamber of Commerce due to Agenda Item 22, which we recently found out has been moved, and we appreciate you all doing that to give the next crop of Board of Supervisors the opportunity to make that decision for its constituents. We represent over 900 businesses and their 40,000 employees. Our Regional Transportation Action Committee, chaired by John Fick and representing a tremendous group of business leaders who live and work in this community, and also including local community leaders and members such as Paul Agnello of FAMPO, others, and then also chaired with partly with Susan Spears, our president and CEO, who has joined me this evening. Although we recognize that the Regional Transportation Authority is not the only option to solve our #1 traffic problem in the United States, we look for any sustainable solution and feel that this option should be one of the tools in our toolbox. Today, the resolution before you, as Matt Kelly mentioned, is not a 100% definitive answer that the Stafford County will adopt the RTA model used by Northern Virginia or Hampton Roads. Rather, it provides our region the option to pursue it legally under the Dillon Rule of the Commonwealth of Virginia. Thanks in part to your leadership, the Fredericksburg region has turned into the crossroads of opportunity for the Commonwealth. With a catalytic location between Richmond, Charlottesville, and Washington, D.C., each day over 60,000 people travel from our region north to jobs to sustain and grow our regional economy. You all and your leadership have led Stafford to become one of the fastest growing counties in Virginia, and you have invested significantly into the infrastructure to support that growth. But in a matter of minutes, if you look out on Route 1, you will see the effects of this with Thanksgiving Day weekend traffic. Hampton Roads and Northern Virginia have shown that although SmartScale was originally designed to take the politics and regional competitiveness out of transportation funding, that has failed. Each year, Northern Virginia and Hampton Roads gain an increasing amount of funding using their leveraged local funding that we certainly can't match. This will put our economy in this region at a disadvantage. Please take a moment and think about what Stafford and the Fredericksburg region will look like in 10 to 15 years. Do we want this region to become a destination of commerce and economic growth? Or do we want this region to be isolated from opportunities and deadlocked in gridlock? Today is the day for an RTA. Pass the resolution to have just the option to pursue an RTA. Give this region an opportunity today for a greater tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you. Who else would like to address the board? Ms. Spears, you're not going to come up? All right. I just want to recognize the president of the Chamber of Commerce, Susan Spears, who is, we're partners with the Chamber and members, and we certainly appreciate everything you do and value your opinion greatly. All right. Would no one else would like to address the board? We will move on to reports by committee reports by board members.
Ms. Sellers?
I'll defer any comment at this time.
Mr. Snellings?
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Just to reiterate what the chairman said about our Veterans Day ceremony, it went very well. Every seat was filled, even though it was a very cold morning, but people really came out. The Memorial Commission and Working Group that has been handling this memorial since the very beginning held its last meeting earlier this month. The further decisions and maintenance of the memorial will now be turned over to the county. And I believe, you correct me, Mr. Foley, but I believe that's going to Parks and Rec and Facilities. And they will designate one person that will be responsible for the memorial, for ordering the bricks, and for making sure any board requests get to the right committees for review. So if you've got any questions or that, you can, Mr. Chairman, you can see me after the meeting or ask them now if you'd like. But our last meeting was held, I believe it was November the 3rd. And I certainly want to take this opportunity to thank everyone that served on that commission and that working group. These folks worked for almost 5 years to get this done, and they did a wonderful job. And I think we're going to recognize them at our next meeting. With that said, I wish everybody a very happy and safe Thanksgiving. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Thomas?
Thank you. Today we had a community and economic development meeting. We had quite a robust agenda. I'll just highlight a couple of items. We had an update on our sign ordinance committee. As you may remember, we passed an ordinance adjustment last year due to a Supreme Court decision, knowing that we would need to go back and really do a deeper dive on that, and that's underway now. We also found out today that South Stafford now has a hub zone, so any businesses out there who maybe aren't quite meeting the goal of having 35% of their employees in a hub zone, we would ask that you may want to reevaluate that, and if you have any employees that live off of 17 down in South Stafford, that's great news and it might help you. Our economic development staff would be certainly happy to put you in touch with the right people. Getting hub zone certification is quite a process, but we have people that know how to do it, and it can point you in the right direction there. And then the other thing we talked about was our tourism update. Our hotel industry in Stafford County is having a real strong showing. I think I saw some statistics that said some of the revenues were up 9% as far as the taxes go. So seems to be a lot in the north part of the county. There's a lot of great investment going on up there, and we're certainly all happy to see that. Attended several events since we've had a 4-week delay here. I'm only going to just maybe highlight a couple. We had 2 VRE meetings between then and now. The current budget, where that stands is there's a couple $100,000 gap they're trying to close, and at this point they actually sit down with all the local jurisdictions, and our finance staff will sit down and make recommendations, and they normally always bring us a balanced budget at the December meeting, and we don't expect that not to happen again. But as has been customary over the last several years, this is the year there will probably be a 3% subsidy increase by the localities. PRTC meeting, the new director continues to do great things there. There's been a pretty big staff realignment, which has resulted in a better operation, and there's a big marketing strategy that he's getting ready to execute. So you'll see a lot of changes coming there. Was invited by the governor to attend the local government forum in Richmond. They kind of went through the last 4 years of accomplishments they've had concerning local governments. There was a statement that they didn't pass one unfunded mandate to localities. Took a little issue with that, but the current governor has done a pretty good job of being aware of that, and I think we're all optimistic, hopefully, that the next administration will continue to be aware of the things that are going on at the localities every time they pass a law, and I certainly hope to be part of that conversation. Band Together to Fight Hunger. I think almost every single board member was there. They raised another record. I think it was like $27,000 or 32,000 meals this year, which was absolutely amazing. We had our VACO Board of Directors meeting. Happy to announce that Meg got reelected to the Board of Directors of VACO, so that's great. We had Special Olympics Craft Fair at Brook Point this weekend. A lot of people don't realize that most of what happens there is done through donations, so feel free to reach out to the Special Olympics, and the Sheriff's Department is a big partner with them. We had a library board meeting last night. We're looking at just about a 1% increase in the budget request there, so that's a lot lower than normal. And Spotsylvania is continuing to add additional money to what I call the catch-up contributions, where there were several years where they were kind of behind, so we're still trying to balance that out, and they seem to be still on board with doing that, so that's great news to report. And I think I'll just leave the rest off for now. That's my report, sir.
It's a good one, thank you.
Ms. Bomke?
Yes, I'd like to thank the citizens in the Falmouth District for re-electing me. I appreciate your confidence in me, and will continue to work hard for all of you, all of the citizens in the Falmouth District, and I look forward to the next 4 years. Today we had an OPEB meeting, and the only thing we're still making money with OPEB. The only thing I would like to add is that there is a new RFP that's going out to look for a new manager of our assets, and that'll be going out December 1st. It's typically a 3-year agreement with 2 years for an optional renewal. We also had the Infrastructure Committee meeting today and discussed some great things. The first one was all about the discussion of whether or not we want to close the Chatham Bridge temporarily while we do the very needed upgrades, since this bridge is deficient in a lot of different ways, and we had a good conversation with VDOT. Looks like we are leaning towards doing that. And if you are interested in information on the Chatham Bridge and the potential detour, all of that information is on VDOT's website. Also, we're going to be passing a resolution later today from the FredEx, basically just supporting the FredEx lanes that are going to be coming down to exit 133. We also talked about the Highway Safety Improvement Program, where we're going to be getting some sidewalks in the next couple of years, and that will be funded through the federal government. We also talked about Route 1 and the Telegraph Road intersection, the redesign of Telegraph and Woodstock, and then also adding in a temporary traffic light until a new light is put in the next couple of years. Let's see. Lastly, there are 2 other things. We discussed the appropriation of funds for the Garrison Road project, and that is actually on the board's agenda for today. It's R17-299, and I just want to mention to the board members that we do have to consider if we want to waive our bylaws for that item, because it is time sensitive. We also discussed the Fred bus, and the staff is going to be coming back to us with additional information on the Fred bus and whether or not we should be expanding that and looking at additional routes. And then Mr. Milday brought up the courthouse bypass in light of a lot of the congestion when there's a spillover from I-95. I just want that to keep that in our bailiwick as we move forward, and that's right over behind the new Stafford Manor project, or Courthouse Manor project. And then we also discussed the broadband RFP from Mr. Cannon. So we covered a lot of ground there, and I would just like to say I was very impressed today with our the new pavilion at our Civil War Park, and thank you again to Mr. Milliday for orchestrating the plaques out there, and thank you to DP Newton and Glenn Trimmer for all their efforts over many years and everything that they've done for the community as it relates to the Civil War. Thank you.
Mr. Cavalier?
Thank you. Had the honor of attending the Aquia Harbor Rescue Squad annual banquet, where I got to install the new officers for the next year. A lot of other things here. With Mr. Milday, we went to the Vascular Associates, something, yeah. At Stafford Hospital, ribbon cutting. It's one of the new programs there. Attended the Fredericksburg Regional Alliance annual meeting down at the Jepson Center at Mary Washington University. Attended the Quantico Innovation Center Board of Directors meeting, and the Oak Grove Baptist Church has a new pastor in Widewater, and I attended the installation of the new pastor there. With a lot of others, went to the VDOT ribbon cutting on the 95 Express Lane, new section of the road. I think that was on Halloween Day. Went to 2 joint CIP Oversight Committee meetings, and with the other members here, and I'm pleased to report that the progress is much better than anticipated. Really, we thought with a new procedure that might be some stumbling blocks for us, but it actually has made things better, and our choices are not hard, but between good and better now, I think. So I think we're moving in the right direction. Went to the Aquia Harbor Board of Directors meeting. Mr. Mode again was there. VACO with some others here. And in case you didn't know, all 5 high schools in the county made the regional football playoffs this year, which is, I think, the first time that all 5 have made it in the same year. So, and 3 are still in the mix right now. Colonial Forge for Division 6, and Brook Point actually plays Stafford this Saturday at 1 o'clock, and so I will be willing at Brook Point, yes, and so I will be willing to entertain any wagering from my southern colleagues up here on that game. So I didn't say money, I just said wagering, and so see me after the meeting. And also, I'd like to either, if we could do it today because of the timing of the next meeting, or at the next meeting, which is right before Christmas, but there's a half-day for the employees scheduled for the Friday before Christmas, which is on a Monday this year, and I'd like to turn that into a full-day holiday for our employees. And that concludes my report.
Mrs. Maurer.
Also attended the joint CIP, and I'm pleased to say that the new process has really opened up an incredibly important dialogue between the school board and the Board of Supervisors. We typically have 4, sometimes 5 school board members there and 3 or 4 Board of Supervisor members. And what it's done is it's improved that relationship between both sides of the street, in which we can talk about projects and look at new ideas for projects and solving, all of the growth that we have to accommodate, both on the school side and on the county side. So it's turning out to be an incredibly productive exercise, and I'm quite proud of it, and I'm looking forward to the CIP, and when we take this full boat on all projects. This year it'll just be for the bond-funded projects. I want to thank my colleagues, Mr. Cavalier, Mr. Thomas, and Ms. Baumke for attending those meetings and participating in the dialogue. Also attended the Stafford Education Foundation 5K. I want to thank Mr. Thomas for walking it with me. Still got that cancer card I'm pulling that limits me from actually running it, but I really do appreciate you walking it with me. Attended the Veterans Day ceremony where Gary did an amazing job on our first ceremony at our memorial. And it's a time where when he gets in front of that memorial, he truly speaks from the heart. And I greatly appreciate the heart and soul that he's put into that memorial and the Veterans Day ceremony that we had there. Also attended an entrepreneur panel at Mountain View, and that was interesting, talking to kids who are budding entrepreneurs looking at starting their own businesses. Attended 2 birthday balls. Happy birthday to the Marine Corps. One was here at our local Globe and Laurel, and the Major is still alive and kicking. He is our World War II veteran that owns the Globe and Laurel and looking better every day, even though he's in his mid-90s. Also participated in the ribbon cutting for G-Cube Technology. They have moved from the city of Fredericksburg here to Stafford County. In full disclosure, I work for G-Cubed. That wasn't the only reason that they came to Stafford County. I will tell you that it was all about dollars and cents and the B-poll tax, the fact that we don't have one, and that company will be saving close to $30,000 a year because of the B-poll tax. So I want to thank my colleagues before me who decided to rescind that tax. And finally, I want to welcome Cindy Shelton, who's hiding there in the back. She is our newest... Huh?
I wanted to be the first congratulator.
I want to congratulate you on your election. Wasn't easy, and looking forward to serving with you on the board. And I also want to congratulate Mr. Mark Dudenheffer, who I'm looking forward to serving with on this board as well. And he's coming back to the board, so that should be interesting. And finally, I want to congratulate Supervisor Thomas on his win, and I'm certainly certain you will serve us well in the General Assembly. And last but not least, I want to thank everyone in the Registrar's Office. I know this has been a contentious election. There's been a lot said, and you do a thankless job. And so I want to thank everyone for their hard work and their dedication to the citizens of Stafford County, and I just believe that that needs to be said. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. That concludes my report.
And Mr. Milday.
Thank you. Well, we did have a nice break, and we got to do a lot of neat things. It's almost easier to say what I didn't attend, but the Vets ceremony was was a great event. Thank you, Gary, for doing that. And I, of course, as Jack mentioned, I was at the Aquia Harbor Board of Directors meeting, which is always fun, and we had a couple VRE meetings, PRTC meetings. But today, most of the board attended just an unveiling of a plaque at the pavilion at the Civil War Park in Brook that commemorates Glenn Trimmer and D.P. Newton. And it's a beautiful plaque. It's safe to say it's probably the nicest plaque we've ever done. And it's fitting because those two men did so much for us. So they saved us about $1.2 million. And they got that park built at no cost to the taxpayers. The pavilion that we just built there is the first thing we paid for. The rest was through the generosity of a lot of people that Glenn put together. So and also most of the board attended a fundraiser for the White Oak Museum several weeks ago, or 3 or 4 weeks ago, that was attended by maybe 1,000 people. I've never seen anything quite like it. A very little advertisement on this event, and just this man, D.P. Newton, is such a treasure for Stafford County, and so loved, and he is so shy and doesn't like to be given attention, but people just really appreciate him. So that was one of the highlights in the last month. I also attended the American Veterans Ball. Ozzie Ramos started this a couple of years ago. He's also a Brook resident, and he really has turned this event into something huge. He's filling up the Expo Center now, and had some, top-of-the-line speakers. It was a great event. Also, the Gwyneth, I think a few of us attended the Gwyneth Gift Foundation, another amazing Stafford-based charity that has done a lot for the county as far as resuscitation and, what would you say? How would you say it? Yeah, heart health, right. Last night at FAMPO, I'm skipping around because I don't want to read everything I've done. At FAMPO, we we endorsed a plan. We didn't spend any money yet, but we endorsed a plan that allows staff to apply for grants to start really to help Fredericksburg kick off a bike program there. That means looking at the bike routes around town and making sure they're safe, improving them where necessary, looking at bike share possibilities. Some don't cost anything. Usually they do cost a little bit. And that will bleed over quickly into Stafford County. As Ms. Pomke alluded to, there's a new bridge that will be built in the next few years. The Chatham Bridge will have an isolated bike lane and pedestrian lane. So it ties right into this. If you've been to other cities where the bikes are, people use a lot of bikes and bike around, you hopefully you appreciated that, and I have, and I do, and we've just started that last night at FAMPO. I think over the next 5 or 10 years, you'll start seeing kind of just the development of biking, and that's something, we're working towards the tourism aspect of that too, not just getting residents around. I'll say that's it. I'll end with that and move over to the report from the county attorney.
I will defer any comments, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
All right. Mr. Foley, what do you have for us?
Mr. Chairman, on my report, as it shows on the agenda, we do have, for information, the monthly report that the board's used to seeing. Keith Dayton is going to give you an update on our construction projects. And I wanted to cover just a few things in the priority projects and initiatives report that we've started providing to you. This is the second month where we've provided an update on some of the major things that are underway that are not particularly capital projects, but things that are in development. A couple very quickly wanted to just note that the kickoff for the creation of downtown Stafford, if you will, was this past week on Friday. We had our redevelopment advisors come in and meet with a number of groups in the county. The Economic Development Authority, we did an overview of their services to them in the morning, and then we did a meeting with the sponsors group, which includes the chair of the EDA and the chairs of infrastructure and economic development, as well as myself. We also then met with the user groups, which was all the court folks, the judge, the Commonwealth's attorney, and some others. I think it was a good day to provide an overview of the approach we're going to try to take to look at the creation of a downtown Stafford. Obviously, we have identified this whole courthouse area for redevelopment. What we're trying to do now is utilize the county's court project and the county's own land to try to move that along much more quickly, create the kind of density that's going to create a walkable environment where we think we can attract a public-private partnership, some restaurants and commercial and so forth. I think it's pretty exciting. A lot of communities have done this. We have hired a firm that is very experienced in this and is international as well as national in terms of the scope of the work that they do. So I think we've got a great advisor on board. We will be giving you regular updates through committees, through the sponsor group and so forth. And when we need to come to this board, we'll also do that as well to provide overviews. One of the things that came out of that discussion that day, the end of the day after all those meetings I just mentioned was with the staff working group, which is a number of department heads, sort of working very, very closely with the advisor on the things that we need to do to move this project forward. The vision, if you will, of what a downtown Stafford would look like is something that probably needs some input from certain groups, including this Board of Supervisors, obviously. So we may be arranging some kind of, perhaps some trips to look at some other places that have done this, or at least some presentations and engagement, and maybe even a facilitated session with the board, maybe members of the Planning Commission and EDA, to try to bring a little bit more shape to what we'd like this to look like. Some work has been done through our comprehensive plan, so that would certainly be foundational to this. But we're going to work on a way that we might get some more feedback from you all about your vision of what a downtown Stafford would look like. So stay tuned for that. That'll be coming in the months ahead. I wanted to mention that we have spent the last month reaching out to county employees to get their thoughts and opinions on the employee climate here in Stafford County. Obviously, we've been through a lot of transition over the last couple years, and it's been a challenging time as we came off of the recession. Really important for us to reach out to our employees on a regular basis and ask them what their thoughts are on the climate of the organization. Do they feel like they're getting treated well by their supervisors? Do they feel like they have the opportunities and resources to serve our citizens well? We're basing this on a national survey so that we can compare ourselves with other local governments and see how we compare to them in terms of that climate and employees' opinion of it. We have in the neighborhood of 950 employees. As of last week, we had 550 participate. So I feel pretty good about the participation level. I can tell you I've been going to every staff meeting and trying to encourage everybody to participate in their local government so we know what we need to do to improve. That survey actually closes tomorrow. Hopefully those numbers will get up even further, but wanted to share with you that that's important work about the climate and morale of our organization. I've told employees that once we get the results, we will share them with them, whether it's good or bad, and that we will actually form employee teams to tell us what they think we should do to improve in any areas where we've had low scores. So I think a lot of good work going on in the organization. The leadership team has provided some strong leadership throughout the organization on this. It's a work in progress, but I think we're taking some important steps. I've heard Dr. Benson come up and tell you about that being done in the school system. It is a best practice. It's what excellent organizations do. So I'm excited about our first effort there. We'll probably continue to do that every year or 18 months or so. We're working on how we might move that forward. One last note, just that I know you all strongly supported some enhanced resources towards our communication program with our citizens, and we are close to making a job offer to a community engagement program director who will lead our community engagement and communications program going forward. Just wanted you to know we expect to have someone on at the first of the year. Mr. Chairman, that concludes my report on some overview certainly at any point would be glad to answer questions you might have on this projects and initiatives report. But Keith Dayton is prepared to do an update on construction activity.
Hello, Mr. Dayton. It's good to see you in this capacity again.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Mr. Foley, thank you. Run through some projects we have underway. There's quite a lot going on. I'll start with the Poplar Road, Mountain View Road, the intersection safety project. Novec has now completed their utility relocation and gets the electric out of our way. We have a contractor out there clearing for the Verizon easement, and we expect them to mobilize and be done in December. We are scheduled to advertise that project in January. The Brook Road, the safety improvement project, we're finishing up a little bit of Verizon relocation out there. Our project is on schedule to re-advertise in December. We were successful in restructuring our bidding documents to extend the lane closure period, allow contractors to hopefully give us some more favorable pricing. We've also included a bid option for a complete closure of Brook Road while construction is underway. This will give us a couple of prices to weigh to try to make sure that we get something that's attractive enough to proceed with out there. Our trail project, Belmont Ferry Farm Phase 4, we completely executed the National Park Service agreement, so our right-of-way is now clear. We are finalizing, or have finalized, our bid documents. They're in with VDOT now for review and hopefully approval. Our schedule is to have that out on the street in December and looking to be under construction next spring. Phase 6 of the Belmont Ferry Farm Trail, we've started our field work. Our design focused mainly in the area of the George Washington Foundation. There's crew out there over the last few days. So we are trying to expedite that work to come up with a preliminary alignment in early December. At that point, we'll discuss the best next steps going forward to try to coordinate with the foundation out there. The Garrisonville Road widening project, the road work is proceeding very quickly. The contractor's doing a good job moving ahead. The eastbound lanes are now open, and the preparatory work on the westbound lane is underway to milling, paving, concrete median work, and curb and gutter work. We're going into the winter. We are hopeful that if some of this good weather continues on into December, they're looking at a spring completion well ahead of the October completion date. Ferry Road, the intersection improvements down there, that project has been on pause for a little while we work out some funding issues, trying to complete that. That's a VDOT administered project. They do have the design complete. They're ready to submit, but until we work out this, the funding and then the Belmont Ferry Farm Trail alignment and the impacts in that corridor are critical to that. So we're doing everything we can to accelerate the trail preliminary design to get that moving forward as well. Mine Road sidewalk is done. So that was one more that we've managed to check off the list, and we have many to go, but it's nice to knock them off even if it's only one at a time. Pardon? 3 years. Yes, ma'am. That's pretty quick. Yes. The animal shelter, our masonry walls are now up and done. The roof trusses are going up. We're about 80% complete on that. They'll move immediately into getting the roof sheathing on. We're expecting to have the building dried in, completely enclosed and weather-proof in early December. Again, that project is scheduled to be completed next spring, around the April timeframe. And then Fire Station 14, the construction contract has been awarded. They are expected to mobilize early next month, beginning with some erosion sediment control work and the clearing, and move on hopefully into grading, and that progress on that one will certainly be weather dependent moving into the winter months.
Lots of stuff going on in Stafford. Any questions for Mr. Dayton? Ms. Sellers?
On the Vine Road project, the art teacher over at Hampton Oaks has been trying to get that wall, the retaining wall. We just haven't had success in engaging with the school board. Can you re-engage with the school board now that Mrs. Young is on there and see if we can get some movement from the school staff to approve? And basically what she wants to do is allow the elementary school students at Hampton Oaks to decorate that wall. VDOT's approved it, we did everything we needed to, and then it gets to the school and it just stops. So now that they have a pretty loud voice over there, could you try and re-engage with them? And
Yes, Ms.
and
Sellers.
I'll talk to
We'll
Ms.
reach
Young
out
and-
and with the school and find out what the status of that is.
Okay, and Lasana Ritchie is the name of the teacher, and she's at Hampton Oaks.
Yes, ma'am, I know her.
Does Ms. Young take office in January? Okay, that's what I expected. Okay. Oh, Ms. Pocky?
Yes, very excited about Phase 4 of the Belmont Ferry Farm Trail. So you said we'll be bidding that in the spring. What's the expected construction time?
We'll actually be under construction in the spring. We'll be bidding it next month. But the expected construction time is on the order of about 9 or 10 months.
Oh.
We are scheduled to be complete in just a year from now, in December.
Okay, great, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Any other questions? All right. Thank you, Keith. Ms. Bomke, congratulations on your victory, and Mr. Snellings, no one thought to say it, and I certainly think it's significant for winning your elections, and you won them
My
well.
mother expressed sympathy. She's a wise woman.
All right, where does this take us? We need a motion for the consent agenda.
Second?
Moved and seconded, please cast your votes. And you may tally those when you're ready. Passes unanimously. On to new business, because we took off item 22. Public Works, consider granting relief from the right-of-way dedication requirement along Fleet Road for Southern Classics Auto Repair.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Keith Dayton, Interim Director of Public Works, here to address this issue. If I can have the computer, please. The business Southern Classics submitted a site plan. They are asking to construct a 8,800 square foot building on the parcel 4469E. That is adjacent to their current existing businesses. It would provide 3 additional work bays and accommodate work on larger commercial vehicles and buses and expand their parking area. That's pretty limited at the existing facility. The existing and primary structure is located at 102 Fleet Road, and that was built in 1955 on the adjacent parcel 4469C, and I have a map of that coming up. The property was rezoned 1982 to M1, and to allow and limit use to auto body and general auto repairs. There were some additional buildings, storage and the like, constructed in 1961 and 1975, and all of these predate our current zoning restrictions and requirements. It also predated any requirement for a right-of-way dedication, which is now in place. And I wanted to just call out that this section of Fleet Road is maintained on a 30-foot prescriptive easement, and that was typical on our older roads. The location map that you see so this is the area of new construction, and this is the area that has the existing facility and the business. And in particular, I wanted to call attention to this area right here, this existing building. It is currently inside of our setback requirements. It's considered non-conforming at the present time. So our county code, section 28106 and 28256, does require the dedication of additional right-of-way so that we can get a minimum of 50 feet dedicated when a site development plan abuts a public street that is less than that. And of course, if it's prescriptive, it's 30-foot prescriptive easement. It's considerably less than that. So this would trigger that requirement. So as our county code stands right now, we would be looking for 25 feet from the center line of Fleet Road on their side of the road. This would increase or exacerbate an existing nonconformity, but it would also create a new nonconformity with a storage building on the site. So as a result of that, the owners requested a waiver from the requirement to dedicate any right-of-way as a condition of site plan approval. Our county code 28256C1 was recently, it was amended to allow the Board of Supervisors discretion to grant relief in cases where the right-of-way dedication would.
Please. And,
yes, sir.
I'm curious, this looks like a land use decision. It's an expansion of a use, and it grants relief from a right-of-way dedication. You must have thought this was a fine line.
No, it's not. No, go, you want?
I think I can handle this. If I may, this is under new business.
We're going to make you the lawyer today. How about that, Keith?
We are not
It's gonna
going to
bail you
ask
out.
the board to take any action. We wanted to make you aware of it, so we would have an opportunity to come back. And I believe now, if I may, in December, we would still need to address the issue of the exemption. We would look for the board to waive the bylaws as it relates to taking up a land use matter.
And so
in this
for the
case.
public's knowledge, so they understand, we have a moratorium on land use decisions after elections, because three of us may not be here, and there was a time when people really hated when people who were leaving got a lot of things done after they lost their elections, and so, or just chose not to run again. So that's why I brought that up. But I guess we'll have another decision to make. There's no harm, I suppose, or violation in discussing it.
So just to make it clear what we're talking about, the yellow line here is the current setback. So the front building is currently non-conforming. If we went with a 25-foot dedication, that's the green line, that creates this new front yard setback that's already in red, and that picks up this building right here and creates a new nonconformity. It would also exacerbate or increase the nonconformity on the existing building. From a practical matter, that may not have any real impact since it's already nonconforming. So that's kind of the background. And as we get to it, just so you see the blue line here, we're going to at least bring the attention to the board that that would be the edge of the current prescriptive right-of-way for some consideration later on. So due to the location of the existing buildings, we would be increasing the existing nonconformity and create a new nonconformity. There's really no way around it under those circumstances. So the staff felt like we should certainly consider the board. It needed to be brought to the board's attention. We're certainly sympathetic to the owners of that building and the business. But we did want to suggest that the board consider the option of dedicating 15 feet of right-of-way to convert the prescriptive easement into dedicated right-of-way. As I mentioned previously, the existing block building's already non-conforming. It would increase it, but that may not have a practical impact on the ability of that business to operate. It would not create a new nonconformity. And then the conversion from prescriptive right-of-way to prescriptive easement to dedicated right-of-way allows both the county and VDOT certain flexibility once it is a right-of-way as far as new development, installation of new utilities. And so there are certain advantages that come along with that.
Mr.
And
Chairman.
that really ends the
Is that Gary?
presentation portion.
Oh, Mr. Shoemate.
If it's convenient, let me just look forward to December. There'll be no need for a waiver. This is not one of the enumerated items in our bylaws. We changed all that, so you're good to go. And that's just so people will not leave, nor will the public be of the opinion or thought that we have to take this to a sensitivity vote. This can be placed on the agenda and voted up or down.
All right, that answers that question. Ms. Sellers?
So when you look at that, the new building is back behind the right-of-way, but we still have to provide an exemption?
The new building would be unaffected by any dedication. It would be only the existing buildings that would be impacted.
So why wouldn't they be grandfathered? Or why do we even have to go look at them again?
Because they're adding a building.
They have submitted a site plan, and the parcels that are impacted by the site plan kicks in this right-of-way dedication requirement in our county code.
They're expanding their use, if you will, on a grandfathered piece of property. That messes with their grandfather, and then they have to start applying.
I mean, I understand that. I guess I don't know. Is this costing them extra money to go through this process?
No, ma'am.
Okay.
This is
We
not
dealt with-
costing you any money.
We dealt with one of these on Garrisonville Road. They're not really happy when you start getting into some of these discussions. And so, I don't know if it's the same situation, but I know the one on Garrisonville Road. They were not happy when we started talking about expanding or widening their non-conforming use, just because of the impacts it might have on if they sold the property one day and all those things. So, just something to consider.
Mr. Snellings?
Mr. Chairman, to Ms. Sellers' concern, Mr. Dayton, you correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe the applicant's engineers have agreed to this compromise. Is that correct?
I did speak with the engineers. The engineers expressed no objections to the dedication at 15 feet.
Right. So I think your fears are allayed because they're agreeing to it.
Yeah. And there's not a lot of reason to dwell on this, but I will explain, since you brought it up, that the reason why we have right-of-way dedication is so that we don't come back in 5 or 10 years or 3 years, try to build a road and end up buying the building that we just let them build. So there's a real good reason to be very careful. And I would suggest that if we don't have any plans to widen this road, then we should always be careful to look at these setbacks that we are, or these right-of-way dedications that we're requesting. We have problems all around the courthouse with built where no one can do anything because the right-of-way dedication that was required to do anything, expand, is just goes into halfway into their property. So if you don't think that's going to be necessary on Fleet Road, maybe another option for if this happens again or anywhere else is to make the right-of-way dedication narrower. It's not funded or it's called out, but are there plans eventually to widen this road or ever?
Well, Mr. Chairman, there are no plans right now to do any widening on Fleet Road, and Fleet Road runs parallel to Route 17, so that is the major traffic carrier in that corridor. One of the things that we do run into from time to time is we put utilities in, and we like to put them in the right-of-way. If it's in a prescriptive easement, then we can run into problems because we have to get a specific easement then for the utility to be where the road is, or right in the shoulder of the road. If it's right-of-way, then we're talking to VDOT, and it's typically approved as a matter of course, subject to certain design conditions.
Excellent. Okay, we'll talk about this again next month. Ready for number 24?
Yes, sir.
All
We'll
right.
move right into it.
Public Works, authorize the county administrator to budget and appropriate additional funds for land acquisition for the Garrisonville Road widening project. And we covered this in one of our committee meetings today.
Yes, a little bit of background. The board approved an agreement with Branch Highways as part of a Public-Private Transportation Act project. This was June 2013, and Branch was going to make improvements to Garrisonville Road between Onville Road and Eustis Road, and then also Truslow Road between Plantation Drive and Berea Church Road. The agreement was very complex. It had contingent and non-contingent costs. The non-contingent costs were the construction and design costs, some of the larger ticket items. The contingent costs included environmental, utility relocations, and right-of-way acquisition costs, just because of some uncertainty related to those. The contingent costs were developed and estimated as of 2012. The agreement was executed over a year later in 2013. We started the Truslow Road project first because the Onville Road project intersection improvement by VDOT was underway. So we basically held up work on the Garrisonville Road widening to allow VDOT to finish, and we wouldn't have two major contracts and construction efforts going on at the same time. So Truslow Road, they moved on to that and they finished it. Then we got back to Garrisonville Road and we received the approval to acquire right-of-way in 2015. So about 3 years after the cost estimates were developed for that project. Garrisonville Road included a lot of commercial acquisitions. Certainly there were none on Truslow. We also found that the state had changed some rules related to calculation of costs for commercial. So that was something that changed in the intervening period. So when the board negotiated the agreement and executed the agreement, there were provisions in the contingent costs for a risk share. So there was an amount of $4.93 million. That was the base amount for both projects. And if their contingent costs were under that, then Branch Highways would pay all of it. If it went over that, then there was a split where the county would pay 80% and Branch would pay 20%. So we essentially required Branch to have some skin in the game as far as their estimates. So we now have identified the contingent costs of $5.43 million. So we're above the $4.93 million that I just mentioned. And we expect another $1,050,000 in contingent costs to complete out the project. And these are, far and away, these are acquisition costs. For some of the reasons that I just mentioned, the time delays and some of the new rules that we're dealing with. Branch is responsible for 20%, and that's $310,000. So that's going to be their portion. The county would fund the remaining $1.25 million, just a little less than that. And we are suggesting that those be funded from some available Garrisonville Road Service District funds. In addition, the board has authorized us to submit $1 million in revenue sharing funds for $1 million. We would have to match that. Right now, there's a potential that we would be under that, but negotiations are still underway. There's still some outstanding properties that we need to acquire. So we are suggesting that we go ahead and look at budgeting and appropriating the full $1 million that's available in Garrisonville Road. That would match the full $1 million, and that gives us a little buffer as these right-of-way acquisitions continue. We do recommend that the board go ahead and approve the resolution that's before you. That would be R-17-299. And we do feel that because we have some some settlements that have closed, some acquisition liabilities that are incurred right now, that this matter is time sensitive, and we also are looking at settling some additional properties in the next month. So we do feel this is time sensitive, and we are recommending approval.
Good. Any questions about this? Ms. Baumke, did you want to make a statement?
Yes, I'd just like to mention to the board, we did discuss this at the infrastructure meeting, and there was support for it. But in your board packet materials, the Lake Carroll information is actually attached.
If you download, there was an adjustment. If you download the new packet,
Oh, it's
it
in
does
there.
pull up all of the information.
Okay.
If you still use paper, like me,
And we still have
you got the
paper.
right one too. Okay, so we're in order.
Okay.
Just for the benefit, again, I like to do this, especially with Cindy in the audience, in case, Stafford is unique, it has a service district. I think we're unique in the state, I can't remember, along Garrisonville Road, that was established and started working about 12 years ago, that all commercial properties on commercial road, on 610, pay an additional 4 or 6 cents, I can't remember what it was, in taxes. And that generates about $500,000 or over $500,000 today per year in revenue, and we are able to match that against state money. So it's so nice to have a dedicated funding stream for 610, but when we talk about 610, it has a dedicated funding stream. And we're able to take that money from that pot, match it against state money that's available, revenue sharing, and continue to do improvements. And we will continue to do improvements on 610 as into perpetuity, I imagine. And 17 also has a service district, but it's zeroed out. There's no tax rate in it, so it effectively doesn't collect any money.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Ms. Sellers.
I'll move approval of R17-299.
Is this new business? No.
Point of order, Mr. Chairman. I think we need a motion to waive the bylaws first before this is considered.
Who's going to make that motion?
I move to suspend the bylaws.
Second.
Move to suspend and seconded.
Mr. Chairman, may I suggest that the board waive the bylaws and deem it time-sensitive such that you can take it up?
Amended?
Yes.
Agreed.
All right, please cast your vote. And you may tally. That passes unanimously. Ms. Sellers?
I move approval of R17-299.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Please cast your votes. And you may tally. And that passes unanimously. And Ms. Bomke, would you like to read us into closed session?
A resolution to authorize closed meeting, whereas the board desires to hold a closed meeting for consultation with legal counsel employed by the county regarding a specific legal matter requiring the provision of legal advice by such counsel, and 2, discussion of the performance and discipline of specific employees of the county, and whereas pursuant to Virginia Code 2.2-3711, A, 1, and 8, such discussions may occur in closed meeting.
Second.
Motion and second, please cast your votes. Tally. That passes unanimously. We're going into closed session. We will come back out of closed session and certify. Occasionally, we'll take a vote after that, but most likely we won't. We will recess until our 5 o'clock dinner upstairs, and then a 7 o'clock meeting starts back here. You know, there's actually.
Thank you. Motion to certify?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Please cast your votes and tally. We are out of closed session, and the meeting is, we're taking a little break until 7 o'clock. All right, welcome back. I'm going to call us back into order and ask Ms. Bomke to do the prayer. And then after that, we'll have a special Pledge of Allegiance, but you'll find out about that in a moment.
Let us pray. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you on behalf of all who have gathered here tonight for our public hearings. Thank you for life itself, for the measure of health we need to fulfill our role as elected officials. We pray for wisdom to govern amid the conflicting interests and issues of our times. We pray for confidence in what is good and fitting. We pray for the ability to work together in harmony, even when there is honest disagreement. Lord, we pray for the people of Sutherland Springs, Texas, and specifically those families from the First Baptist Church who lost family members to another senseless act of violence. Please be with these families as they begin the process of healing with the tragic loss of life due to a horrific crime. Lord, we also have continued to open our hearts to be with the Bellman family, with the loss of Ferris and then Roger. Please continue to lift up this special family in Stafford County as they get ready to go through the holidays. Lord, we continue to ask for your support of our first responders and our military near and far as they work to come to our aid in an emergency and to protect us from harm and destruction. In your name we pray. Amen.
All right, would my Girl Scouts please come forward? Come on up, ladies, young ladies. This is Troop 5427, right? Yeah. They're going to do our pledge for us. Okay. You want to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance? There's a flag right here. Thank you, ladies. That's it. You know, you asked me what I like the most about this job and what I'll miss. It's things just like this. Thank you. At this time, I'm going to ask my dear friend Robert Bellman and his family to please come up and approach the dais. I'm going to have the honor of reading this proclamation, although there's a few of us here that had to fight over it. Yeah, come on. So I want to recognize we have a few former supervisors in the audience that I've worked with, and the county administrator, C.M. Williams, and Linda Musselman, and Bob Gibbons. I was fortunate enough to actually work with Bob and learned a lot about things from him, and that's kind of how I got connected to Ferris Bellman. So a true Southern gentleman. We've had supervisors over the years. You might imagine they're plastered all over the walls, but Ferris stood out in many ways, having been the only at-large elected at-large supervisor, the at-large chairman, and did 10 years. And I also, and it's probably I'm probably reading the proclamation in pieces here, but having served on the city council before he came to Stafford and served, just a real popular guy. And he liked to say that he only lost one election, and that was because he didn't know the other guy was running. That was Ms. Ray Davies, I guess, down in the city. Do I have that right? Yeah. So I'm going to read this. It's from the board, but I'm going to read it for the board. It is a proclamation to posthumously honor and recognize Mr. Ferris Bellman, Sr., for his service to Stafford County. Whereas longtime, this is a big one. We had to put it on bigger paper. You might have noticed they're usually smaller than this. Whereas longtime member of the Stafford County Board of Supervisors, Mr. Ferris M. Bellman Sr. passed away on September 3rd, 2017, leaving behind an abundant legacy of public service and dedication to Stafford County, and a 33-year political career in the area. And whereas Ferris Bellman graduated from James Monroe High School in 1944 and served his country for 2 years in the United States Army in World War II, and whereas after his military service, Mr. Bellman joined his father in the family grocery business, Bellman's Grocery, in downtown Fredericksburg, and built the business up to 3 stores in the Fredericksburg area. He retired from the grocery business in 1987. And whereas, starting in 1968, Mr. Bellman served 4 consecutive terms on the Fredericksburg City Council, which ended when he moved to Stafford County. And whereas Mr. Bellman and his wife, Edna, who's with us, moved to their family farm in Stafford in 1983, where they became involved in civic and community life. Whereas he began his political career in Stafford County in 1984 after being elected to the tiebreaker seat, which broke deadlocks between the other 6 members of the Board of Supervisors. The tiebreaker eventually became an at-large seat representing the entire county, with Mr. Bellman being the only person to ever serve in that capacity, with the establishment of a 7th electoral district. And whereas Mr. Bellman served on the Board of Supervisors through 2001, and during his tenure on the board, he was elected by his peers 5 times to serve as chairman and 4 times to serve as vice chairman. And whereas Mr. Bellman represented the county as a board member and president of the Virginia Association of Counties, the Fredericksburg Area Metropolitan Planning Organization, and the Rappahannock Regional Solid Waste Management Board, among others. And whereas Mr. Bellman was known for his incredible sense of fairness, and he had a reputation for being a true gentleman, traits which helped the board work very closely and successfully together. And whereas, at a time when the population of Stafford County was only 70,000 citizens, Mr. Bellman anticipated the future need for water and was a champion of building the eventual Lake Mooney Reservoir, a project that will meet Stafford County's water needs for many years to come. And whereas other major projects of note during his tenure include attracting GEICO and its many jobs to Stafford County, building the Stafford Regional Airport and the new interchange at Centerport Parkway, approving Celebrate Virginia, obtaining the property for Stafford campus of the University of Mary Washington, acquiring Government Island and Accokeek Furnace, and the construction of the Government Center and the Regional Adult Jail and Juvenile Detention Centers. Mr. Bellman's ability to foresee the need for infrastructure prepared Stafford County immeasurably for its growth both in business and population. And whereas Mr. Bellman was a lifelong member of the Fredericksburg United Methodist Church and the beloved patriarch of his large family, many of whom live in Stafford County and have followed their father by being active in the community. And whereas perhaps Mr. Bellman is best remembered for the ever-present smile on his face and his genuine interest and care for his fellow board members, staff, and citizens, a true role model for all who follow him. Now therefore be it proclaimed by the Stafford County Board of Supervisors on this, the 21st day of November 2017, that it be and hereby does posthumously honor and recognize Ferris M. Bellman Sr. for his dedication and service to Stafford County. Would you like to say any words? No. None of you? I want you to know where Ferris is on the wall there, in case you don't have a picture of him. He's the guy with the glasses smiling to the left of Candy Hilliard. So just to the left of where the wall juts out. He's the next guy on your left, and that's Ferris. And some of us were lucky enough to have known him. You don't want to say anything? He was elected, by the way. He was a school board member. I know you can talk in public. All right, Robert. Thank you, and thank you for your father. Oh, you know what? I forgot to mention that I'm getting you a brick over here at the memorial, and this is something to certify that we've done that. Yeah. All right. Thanks, guys. Thank you. Thanks for coming out. Y'all want to say anything? Wow. Some wonderful people walking out of here right now. Bye, CM. You built this. Gary, you help me with this baseball thing. All right, good. All righty. May I have Dalton Alger, Stephen Dean, Harbin Dilly, Michael Jewell, DeJuan Morton, Coach Patrick Alger, Coach Michael Dilly. Can I get him up here to be recognized? We're going to turn this over to Supervisor Snellings. In August 2017, these 5 young, up here, come on up. Oh, yeah. These 5 young baseball players from Stafford joined their peers from California and Ohio to form America's team. Together, they traveled to the Dominican Republic with the American Council for International Studies. They were matched with Dominican teams and played several games throughout the week in both Santo Domingo and the more remote beach town of Sosua. America's team had the opportunity to play against the Polonia Baseball Academy, founded, owned, and run by Louis Polonia, a former Major League Baseball player who won World Series rings with both the Atlanta Braves and the New York Yankees. For the first time in 10 years, America's team beat this academy. Adding to the experience, they divided the teams for a second game where the players were mixed. It was a new experience for the teams to communicate without speaking the same language, especially between the pitcher and the catcher. It's pretty impressive. Today, I'd like to congratulate the team members on their exceptional representation of our country and Stafford County while in the Dominican Republic. And with that, Mr. Snellings, good job.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Computer, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. One of the things that we want to do here tonight is to emphasize what these young men did other than just play baseball. You know, you can look at the youth of today and you can say there's a lot of wrong going on, but I can tell you there's also a lot of right. And these young men personify that. And I couldn't be more proud to be here with them tonight. And I'm going to turn it over to their spokesperson, Stephen Dean, and he's going to give you a little bit of an overview as to what they did when they went down there.
Good evening, Chairman Milday and Vice Chairman Baumke and supervisors. My name is Stephen Dean, and it's an honor for me to introduce you to my teammates and coaches this evening. They're from my far left, Dalton Alger, Harbin Dilly, Michael Jewell, and DeJuan Morton. And to my right are coaches Michael Dilly and Patrick Alger. In September of 2016, we were invited to take our game to the next level. Coach Dilly reached out to baseball players throughout the area that he felt had a passion and desire to form America's team and travel to the Dominican Republic the following summer with the American Council for International Studies. ACIS is a known leader in quality education travel for middle and high school students. Their signature program, Cultural Connections, allows participants to expand their horizons and learn how others live by leveraging something we have in common. Yes, we got to play a lot of baseball, but the trip was also educational, cultural, and philanthropic. We were joined by players and coaches from Ohio and California to have a complete roster. Thus, we truly were America's team, which was a bit of a cultural experience itself. But we bonded very quickly and learned to communicate with our Dominican peers who spoke no more English than we did Spanish. We ate foods we never would have tried otherwise. We had the opportunity to jump 27 waterfalls, but we also visited areas that made us appreciate how lucky we are and realize how much we take for granted. We could feel what proud to be an American is truly about. Perhaps the most meaningful experience, though, was our community service. It was very humbling and emotional. We went to a local landfill, but there was a lot to it. In addition to garbage, plastics, and tires, the landfill had people. The people represented stories, families, dreams, and ideas, a landfill community. The Brave Souls Foundation provides basic necessities to help these families and individuals achieve long-term success. Most of the families living at the landfill compound are stateless, meaning that no country claims them. They are among the most vulnerable of our world and often denied what are considered to be basic human rights. Their work is dangerous and hazardous. They also have limited, if any, access to education, healthcare, or business security. The mission was to help dig through the trash to find plastic bottles, glass bottles, and plastic bags. We were hesitant at the thought of digging through trash, thinking of what we might encounter, such as, biohazards, feces, needles. However, when we arrived at the landfill, none of that mattered. We saw how the residents lived off the recycled items they turned in. We put on our gloves and got to work. It was hot, and we probably sweated more than any game we played in, but it was well worth it. After the work was done, the residents wanted to play a game of stickball that they played in the landfill with our team. They used the tops of 5-gallon water jugs as balls and a bamboo stick as a bat. It was a great experience, and some of us, all of us, struck out. Those kids could really pitch using a 5-gallon cap. And it's harder to hit than it looks. Later, the representatives from Brave Souls spoke to us back at the hotel about the experience. We mostly felt sad. Before I conclude, I must also share that for the first time in 10 years, as was said before, the team beat the Polonia Baseball Academy, having only come together at the airport a couple days before. And that was quite an accomplishment for us. And thank you very much for your time. We are proud to have represented our county in such a meaningful way.
Thank you very much. Well said, Stephen.
Mr. Roinstad, Chairman of the Telecommunications Commission, is here to provide the TCC's annual report. Hi, Brian. How you doing? It's great seeing you.
Good evening. Before I begin with an update from the Telecommunications Commission, I'd like to extend a special thank you to Supervisor Milday. It's been a fantastic experience representing your district on the TCC. In all instances, you have made yourself available to assist with any questions or concerns, and for that I thank you. As a commission, we have tasked ourselves with finding ways for all residents of Stafford County to receive broadband at their home. Our primary goal is to eliminate the metaphoric last mile, or pockets without broadband accessibility. We've instituted a multifaceted approach to accomplish this, which began with the franchise agreement negotiation with Comcast. Although the process of arriving at an agreement with Comcast was certainly trying at times, it was certainly worth it when examining the final product and how it has been implemented. There were certain components we wanted in this new agreement, such as for it to be specific, easy to understand, and to include provisions that hold our provider responsible should they not honor the terms of the agreement. The signed agreement achieved all three. The closest point of service is always the closest address with service. The cost contribution calculation is included in the agreement, and there's a provision for liquidated damages should Comcast not hold to their part of the bargain. In addition, should a home not meet the density requirement, the homeowner may trench the cable line on their own property to help offset contribution costs. Since its signing last year, I am not aware of any letters of noncompliance sent from the County Administrator's Office to Comcast, a stark difference from years past. There are some areas that can still be improved, such as the timeliness of responses to resident expansion and cost estimate requests. We will continue to work with Comcast to try and get these responses in a more expeditious fashion. As far as current negotiations are concerned, we are actively working with Cox Communications to update the franchise agreement they have with Stafford County. Although I would love for Comcast, Cox, and Verizon to serve the entire county, it does not appear complete coverage through these providers is reasonably attainable. With this in mind, we've reached out to a number of other providers to get information on what other services are available for Stafford County residents. We have invited and hosted a number of speakers from various broadband companies to our meetings and have actively worked with Chief Technology Officer Mike Cannon on the county's RFEI for additional broadband access. I know of at least one new broadband company that will soon start offering unlimited broadband service in certain areas of the county through LTE technology. In addition, Viasat, a large satellite internet company, launched a new satellite earlier this year. I believe it was in June or July. Once this satellite comes online in Q1, most likely February 1st, all Stafford County residents will be able to subscribe to unlimited service offerings with download speeds as high as 100 megabytes per second, which is pretty awesome. Let me be clear, both companies have stated they will have service plans without data caps for Stafford County residents. I am certain more opportunities will come about from Mr. Cannon's RFEI. Mr. Cannon and I have also attended meetings at the George Washington Regional Commission to communicate and collaborate with other municipalities in the area. One of the most difficult aspects when working to expand broadband is there are so many people that are passionate about getting it done, but no one seems to want to work on it together. The meetings at the GWRC provide a platform for the region to be a little more cohesive in its approaches. The final item I would like to touch on has to do with the last mile residents I mentioned at the start of our conversation, more specifically, last mile student residents. Not only are there student residents unable to receive service due to a lack of infrastructure, but also due to economic constraints. We should not forget that the broadband last mile can manifest itself due to financial difficulties and not just from a lack of infrastructure. New technologies and partnerships will be able to solve infrastructure issues, but certainly have a much more difficult time solving the financial constraints of broadband. To help with this issue, the TCC has made an effort to work more closely with Stafford County Schools. We attended, with numerous representatives from Comcast and Cox, a number of the Stafford County back-to-school nights to spread the word about reduced-cost broadband offerings from our franchise partners. Thank you to Supervisor Sellers for also donating her time to these events. Any student involved in the free or reduced lunch program can subscribe to broadband service through Comcast or Cox for $10 a month. Information about these programs has also been included in school newsletters. We've also had preliminary conversations with Kajit, a company that manufactures safe wireless hotspots for students. In other municipalities, such as Fairfax and Spotsylvania, these hotspots are rented out through school libraries for students to take home. It is my belief that students learn far better in their own homes than having to stay late at school. Thank you to the Stafford County School System, most notably Nicole Stewart, Tiffany Twine, Zach Flanagan, and Cherie Johnson for all of their assistance. As for next year, we will continue to collaborate with the schools, work with our providers, and seek out new offerings with the hope of eliminating both the economic and infrastructure last mile in Stafford County. In addition, we have had conversations about updating the TCC website and including more in-depth information on broadband offerings and internet safety. Thank you to all the members of the TCC, Pamela Young, who's actually here too, David Dilley, Greg Kalangin, Brad Schultes, and Glenna Mead for all of your hard work and efforts this year. We'd also like to be sure to thank our staff liaisons, Shannon Howell and Mike Cannon, for all of their time and support as well. I'd be more than happy to answer any questions anybody has.
Any questions for Brian? Mr. Snellings, and then Ms. Miller.
Well, thank you very much for what you're doing. I want to make sure I understood you right.
Sure.
I understood that on February the 1st that everyone in Stafford will have connectivity. Is that?
Well, if they decide to subscribe to that service, yes,
Yes.
that is correct.
So how do we get that word out about that service? Is this company going to do that, or?
Yeah, absolutely.
County can get involved?
Viasat is actually a rather large company. You might have heard they're rebranding from a name called Exceed. The satellite that they launched earlier this year, they say it's going to come online around February 1st, but they actually have plans to launch another satellite in 2019 and then corresponding satellites 6 months in addition to that after. They have pretty much long-term plans to cover the entire globe is really what their goal is. It's
So
pretty
if I
impressive.
live in the upper reaches of Heartwood up near Fauquier.
All you need is a tree line to the satellite, yes. All you need is a clear path to the satellite.
And if I live at Marlboro Point, it's the
Yes,
same
sir,
thing?
that is correct.
Okay, well, that's great. I appreciate
That
it.
is
What's the
correct.
name of the company again?
Viasat, the name of the satellite is Viasat 2 if you want to Google it. It was launched from, I want to say, middle of Africa earlier this year.
I don't care if it was launched from White Oak.
I'm sure
As
you
long
can.
as it works, because I
Yeah,
tell you,
yeah,
we
absolutely.
need it in Heartwood all through the rural part of the
Absolutely.
county. And I appreciate everything you've done on this. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
I just want to thank you. It's the Telecommunications Commission over the last couple of years, and I've sat in a number of the negotiation meetings with Comcast, with you.
They're not fun.
They weren't fun with Mr. Cannon, but you kept a steady hand and you fought for Stafford, and I'm very grateful for
Well,
all
that's
of
very
your hard
appreciated.
work and the hard work of the commission and the hard work of staff, because we are so much better off because of the hard work of the Telecommunications Commission, and you even come out to the Rock Hill District and even help with some of my citizen complaints. And
Absolutely.
I am grateful for that.
Well,
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mr. Thomas.
I'm a proud alumni of that group.
Yeah, I know, very much
In
so, yeah.
2010 and 2011, I had the opportunity to see the inside, and I know it's a very precarious position you find yourself in because we actually aren't allowed to regulate internet.
No,
Really,
no.
all you're allowed to regulate is the cable television. It just so happens that most of those people provide it. So the fact that you found a way around that and built good relationships with the cable providers who know that we don't really have a lot of authority there is commendable for sure.
Thank you.
I just had a question about the Exceed. You said the
Sure.
download's up to 100 megabytes.
Yeah.
What's the upload like?
5 to 10?
That's not too bad.
No.
And then latency for my gamer friends?
Gamer friends are going to have some issues,
Okay.
but working from home, students, they're going to be perfectly fine.
Excellent. Good news. Thank you.
Any other? Yes.
I just want to make a comment on the Internet Essentials. The technology gap is something that really sets kids apart in schools and then in life. And so what Comcast does in North Stafford, and I'm assuming it's probably Cox and South Stafford, what they provide with that $10 a month service really helps these children. So it was a great opportunity to sit down and meet with the folks from Comcast and spend a couple of days with them. And what you guys did is amazing, and that was really the work that you guys did. But thank you, because it's very important to get those kids connected.
You all know Marie Schuler and how difficult she is to get a hold of. She actually spent 3 days in a row, about 6 or 7 hours a day on those 3 days at Stafford County Schools, just trying to get the word out. So it was pretty impressive what she did. It was a lot of fun. And that goes to all across the country where these companies offer service. It's not just Stafford County. So anybody that you might know that could take advantage of it certainly can do so.
Mr. Cavalier?
Yeah, this is wonderful news, and I was just wondering how this compares to like HughesNet and what the cost is.
They're a direct competitor of HughesNet. I actually had to call the regional sales rep, his name is Don Nicholson, today to make sure he was okay with me speaking about this, because Mr. Ken and I got invited to one of their big reveal kind of shows down in Richmond, and he said it's fine. He said that the pricing is likely going to cap out for the unlimited 100 megabytes down at around $150 a month.
That's for the top of the line.
Top of the
unlimited,
line, yep.
100 down and 15 up?
5 to 10.
5 to 10, I'm
yeah.
sorry. I added them.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we appreciate you, and hopefully you'll be
Thank
around
you.
for a while. Thanks, Brian. Any more questions?
Any other? My phone number is on the Stafford County website. It's the same number my mom calls me on, so anybody has any questions, they can reach out to me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I forgot to say, welcome Pamela Young, who won the school board seat in the Garrisonville district. Congratulations and welcome. Hope to be seeing lots more of you. Yeah. And somewhere around here was Cindy Shelton, but you're not there. She had to go. Okay. All right. Where are we? All right. So thank you for attending the this Board of Supervisors meeting. We appreciate your interest in your local government. This is our time for presentations by the public. So if you are here to speak about something other than one of the two items that are on for public hearing, this is your time to come up and speak about anything else you'd like to speak about. You'll have 3 minutes to speak. The way this works is you come forward to the microphone, introduce yourself, your name and your address, and at that point a green light will come on, and you'll have 2 minutes until the yellow light, and then an additional minute, so 3 minutes total, until the red light comes on. At the red light, of course, you should be finished speaking, and we'd ask you to be polite and respectful and address the board, not the audience. And I don't believe I have any cards that are for the open section. Most of you are here for the Argyle Heights issue. So I will open the chambers up to anyone who would like to address the board on any issue other than a public hearing. I know I saw Mr. Wadowski around here. Huh. All right. Count your blessings.
Good evening.
Hi.
My name is Susan Cozier. I'm at 209 Taylor Street, 22405. And I'm here again about the Confederate flag issue. I know my compatriot Bill was here this afternoon at 3 o'clock, and I'm representing us tonight. A lot of people are sick and traveling for the holidays and such. So I know this has faded a lot from the public eye since the headlines have gone down, but we are still hopeful that y'all are working on some sort of resolution to this. I understand there was a closed-door meeting about it today, and I'm looking forward to hearing about that, and I'll be back in a couple weeks to see what's new, but thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Cozier. Anyone else who would like to address us on any issue? Okay. Then we'll come to our first public hearing, which is authorized establishment of the Lake Carroll Service District. Hi, Mike.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, Vice Chairman, members of the board. My name is Michael Smith. I'm the Deputy County Administrator, and I'm here to talk about the Lake Carroll Service District, proposed Lake Carroll Service District. May I have the computer, please? Okay, Argyle Heights is a neighborhood in South Stafford County, which includes Lake Carroll. The lake is impounded by the Kennedy Dam, and it is subject to the regulation of the Virginia Department of Conservation and Recreation. The lake and dam are owned and maintained by 19 property owners that surround the lake. The lake is currently out of compliance with the standards associated with a high hazard dam and is in need of repairs. This is a picture of Lake Carroll. Lake Carroll is, has about 1.18 miles away from Rappahannock. It drains into an unnamed stream. It's approximately 13.6 acres, and it has an impoundment, which is approximately, the watershed is 0.6 square miles. The importance of the lake, first of all, it's got a road over it, and it provides a second entrance to the community that is important for emergency services, and it's also an aesthetic feature enjoyed by the full community. If the property owners are not able to repair the dam, the state will drain the lake and remove the dam. The DCR has threatened that on Lake Arrowhead and other lakes as well. It also has the authority to charge the dam owners for that work. It'll reduce the public safety with the loss of the roadways. It'll reduce property values. There's also a Department of Utilities pump station on the edge of the dam and water and sewer lines that run through the existing dam. If the dam is removed, all of those facilities would have to be relocated at a significant cost to the County Utilities Department. This is a picture of the dam inundation zone. You can see there are several structures that if the dam breaks, it would impound, it would run over, and also Route 3. This is what classifies it as a high hazard dam. Therefore, the spillway has to be able to handle 0.9 of the possible maximum precipitation. It's much more than a 100-year storm event.
It's much more.
Well, a 100-year storm event is just a single event, and it's a flood, a 100-year flood, but the maximum possible precipitation is an isolated incident.
It's even more rare than 100 years?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. That's
And
what
it
I
can
meant.
be just in a small instance instead of an entire area. The owners commissioned a study by Timmons Engineering in 2009 as required by DCR, and this is the dam inundation zone that resulted from that. The study revealed that the principal spillway, as I said, does not have the capacity. In addition, the study found that Route 3 was subject to inundation, and they need improvements to bring the dam into compliance. The owners did not have funding at the time and came to the county for assistance. They reached out to us in February of this year. Staff began working with the owners to provide information about a possible service district. In July, the Infrastructure Committee authorized a contract to identify alternatives and estimates for repair of the dam with an engineer on the deteriorated spillway. 3 alternatives were considered. The first is a culvert replacement. Obviously, these aren't the culverts from Lake Carroll Dam, but the study found that the replacement would require 20 box culverts that were each 8 feet wide and 6 feet high. So basically, they would have to tear down half of the dam to put the box culverts in. So the estimate for this alternative was over $3 million. And articulated block concrete is a method that is used often to armor the dam so that if the water spills over the dam. So you can allow the water to come up over the road and spill down the dam, but you have erosion that happens and the dam can fail. So articulated block is one way to cover that. They can put the block throughout the entire base of the dam, the face of the dam, and as water spills over it won't erode. The estimate for this alternative was approximately $863,000, $864,000. A new technology that has come up, which is similar to articulated block in the fact that it stops the erosion, is called hydroturf. Hydroturf has been brought to the Soil and Water Conservation Board several times over the past year, and on last Thursday, when I met with the homeowners, DCR actually gave a provisional approval of this hydroturf. They want DCR staff to come back in December with the specific rules on the hydroturf and what kind of things they'll look for in inspections, and then they'll give it the full approval. So we expect that this will be ready for us to use if a service district is approved. The estimate for this alternative was over was about $470,000, give or take. Okay. There's other things to consider. It's not just the spillway. We also have, I don't know, you can't see the picture very well, but the one on the right are 2 pipes sticking out of the a hill, which is all eroded. That's the other side of the dam. And so there'll need to be some improvements on that side to shore up the outfall. The picture on the left is actually 2 inlets. The first one is the spillway, and the second one is the first one is the principal spillway. The second one is an emergency spillway, neither one of which are big enough together to handle the flow. That's why you'll have to have one over top. But we also had the pipes inspected. We did a TV inspection of the pipes, and the pipes were in really good shape. There's some joints that need to be repaired, and so we added that cost in, but you could see on the film that the pipes showed 1955 as the date that they were made, and they're still in really good shape, which is pretty surprising. But the estimated cost of the pipes is about $4,000 on each side. I had $6,000 on here, but I added $4,000 for each side on the dam repair cost. So I added the design work for the repairs, which is about $60,000, and then I added $8,000 for the joint repairs. I would do the joint repairs as a separate project, and we can have somebody else come in to do that, and you don't add it to the contractor price. It would be pretty easy. We believe that I also added 25% contingency for the construction costs, not for the design nor the joint repairs. And so the total cost is $583,000. We believe we can get a DCR grant for about 50% of the design costs, so we take $30,000 off, so that leaves the service district cost at about $555,000 for the repairs of the dam. We met with the property owners in May to go over the process for establishing a service district. Petitions were sent out to the 19 property owners with estimates on costs. At that time, we used 300, 400, and 500 because we didn't have a good cost. 17 of the 19 property owners responded, and all were in favor of the service district. After the analysis, I went back out and met with the property owners last Thursday, and they were still in favor of a service district, and I believe you'll hear some of that this evening. This is the boundaries of the Lake Carroll Service District. As you can see, it's just the people who actually touch the lake. Like I mentioned, the total cost is $555,000. We believe that funding for the improvements could come from year-end monies with a payback from the service district. With 19 owners, the semi-annual average, this is a semi-annual average payment, would be $730 at 0% interest for a 20-year loan. So they'd pay almost $1,500 a year extra as a payback. And I consider it a 20-year loan because it is only 19 property owners, but you could do a 10-year loan and double that cost, basically. If the board decided to add interest onto the loan, the semi-annual average would be $800 at 1% and $890 at 2%. This is the actual cost per property. I didn't list the addresses, just 1 through 10, and you can see some of the property owners are paying, even at a 0% interest, will be paying $1,500 or more every 6 months. So they're willing to take on quite a burden to get this dam fixed. Service district requirements, state the name and the boundaries, all this stuff that we've done with Lake Arrowhead that you guys are aware of. Do you have any questions?
Questions? Ms. Maurer.
What was the interest rate we are planning on
0.
charging for Lake Arrowhead?
We don't have any on Lake Arrowhead.
We don't have any, okay.
Correct.
Okay, no questions. Well, I guess I'll just go ahead and open this up for the public hearing. It's the same set of rules that you heard me articulate, or that's probably an exaggeration, but to mention earlier. And I have a set of speaker cards. Marcia, I have 3, and then I have a stack. Which ones were first? Okay. Just want to get proper order. And before we start, I want to commend staff on what you put together. I assume Bob was working on this, and we've had nothing but positive. I've seen nothing but positive correspondence on this issue. So, and pretty impressive what I just heard. All right, Mr. Kevin Waddell. And I'm sorry when I mispronounce names, which is likely to happen.
Good evening. My name is Kevin Wydell. I reside at 123 Lakeshore Drive, Stafford County, Virginia. I'm president of the Lake Carroll Lake Owners Association. I come tonight in support of the creation of the Lake Carroll Service District. Tonight you will hear from my friends and neighbors on how the lake affects them and enhances their lives. But the summation of all of this is that the lake is the center of our community. It provides joy and beauty to ourselves, friends, and neighbors. Also, these are the names of 65 in our community who could not make it here tonight, but would like to lend their support to the preservation of our lake and the dam. They put their names below to a simple statement that says they support the creation of the Lake Carroll Service District for the preservation of Kennedy Dam. We feel Kennedy Dam and Lake Carroll add beauty and value to our neighborhood and the surrounding areas. We respectfully request Lake Carroll Service District be created. We appreciate that you are helping us help ourselves. Thank you.
All right. Our next speaker is Patricia Waddell. I think you might be connected with one another. And then after that is Aaron Lewis. I'm sorry, Wydell, right?
Thank you.
Hi.
Okay. Good evening, Chairman Milday, Vice Chairman Bonke, and supervisors. I am Patricia Wydell, and I also reside at 123 Lakeshore Drive in Stafford County. I'm here to request your support for the creation of the Lake Carroll Service District so we may bring the lake and dam into compliance with laws and regulations administered by the Commonwealth's Department of Conservation and Recreation. I have been a resident of Stafford County for over 30 years, living in both Furry Farm and Argyle Heights. Like the ancient oaks that populate this area, the families in this community have deep roots and are committed to one another. The lake is and has been an enduring destination and focal point for both communities. In my younger days, I jogged around the lake with my golden retriever, Nana, while holding the seat of my son's two-wheeled bicycles in hopes the training wheels would soon come off. They did, and now, years later, my dog Rascal walks me around the lake as I watch young parents do the same for their children, feeling connected via our shared experiences. We frequently stop and chat and get caught up to speed on one another's lives. At other times, we walk side by side, reflecting on the beauty of the day and enjoying the shared quiet of the woods, the calls of the geese, and the occasional sighting of a hawk or bald eagle. Argyle Heights boasts of at least 6 families whose grown children have bought homes in this neighborhood to raise their children near their parents. These young adults could have purchased more house with newer amenities in other subdivisions, but the charm of the lake and the stability of this community brought them back home. Preserving the lake and the wildlife that flourishes here makes this community a desirable place and is critical in attracting homeowners willing to upgrade these homes as they come on the market. Most of the homes, mine included, were built in the 1970s and in need of a little TLC and modernization. Of the 19 houses on the lake, 3 are on the market due to homeowners having aged out. Of the remaining 16, an additional 7 are occupied by retirees on fixed incomes. And of the remaining 9, an additional 6 to 7 owners will retire in the next few years. As we look to the future, we aspire to age in place, as is the tradition in Argyle Heights. We value the community we have nurtured throughout our lives and want to ensure the lake, the wildlife, and our commitment to each other endures for the next generation. To do so, we ask for your support through the creation of the Lake Carroll Service District.
Thank you, Ms. Wydell. Aaron Lewis, and after that is Christian Renault.
Good evening. Hello, my name is Erin Lewis, and I live at 127 Lakeshore Drive. I, along with my husband, Nathan, am a lake owner in Argyle Heights. I also happen to be a realtor in this area and understand the great value Lake Carroll adds to not only our properties, but the community as a whole. The lake is an attraction to many runners in the area, cyclists heading to the trails, and neighbors walking and taking in the beauty that surround our community. When we were looking for a home, we were only looking in the Argyle Heights community to raise our children. I wanted to stay in the same school district and remain close to the downtown Fredericksburg area, so I knew Argyle Heights was the community for us. I love our community. My daughters love our community. It offers large lots with established trees and wildlife, homes that vary in style and age, and it's tucked away like a little secret. We have developed many special relationships throughout this neighborhood, and I was fortunate enough to be able to call this home on the lake ours. I'm grateful to wake up each morning and have the beautiful view greeting me. The 19 lake owners lake owners' homes vary greatly. The value of the homes as well as the income and ages of the neighbors that live in them. A service district allows for all of us to have an assessment-based payment, which helps ease the financial burden for those of the lake owners that are not prepared to take on such a large project. I support and request the assistance of the service district to help us bring the dam up to the required standards set forth by the Commonwealth of Virginia. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. The next speaker card actually has two names. It's Christian Renault and Debbie Renault. I don't know how you'd like to handle that, but you may each have your own time or come together.
We'll come together.
All righty.
We normally do.
Good evening. My name is Christian Renault, and this is my wife, Debbie, and we live at 133 Lakeshore Drive on Lake Carroll. I'm here tonight to support the creation of a service district for Lake Carroll. We have lived there since 1983, and we love our lake and want to keep it as an asset to the neighborhood and the quality of life it provides for us, and also for the wildlife that live around the lake too. We appreciate your help and in this matter, and we thank you very much for your consideration. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And then Gail Kaufman. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
After that is Ella Lewis.
Good evening, Chairman Milday and Chairwoman Ms. Baumke and all the supervisors. Thank you for allowing us to speak to you tonight about this. And I have to say, you've heard some really eloquent words about the lake that we love. So I'm just going to be brief because a lot of it would just be repetition. I am Gail Kaufman. I live at 214 Lakeshore Drive. I have lived there for 16 years, and I would like to ask you to support the formation of the service district for Lake Carroll and the Kennedy Dam. You know, I think you're hearing that not only does the county benefit from the road that provides the emergency access that goes over the dam, the sewer and the water line is embedded there. So the county does have somewhat of an interest in helping us out. The whole neighborhood really does benefit both physically and psychologically from walking around the lake. Even in the coldest days, you'll see people out walking, and that's all good for our health. So it really is a wonderful asset to the community. Again, most of this is repetitious, but there's actually only 18 owners because there is one owner that owns 2 lots. One's an investment property. So the financial burden really is very substantial, especially when you consider that about half of the people are on fixed incomes and retirees. So actually, by taking on this burden, the taxes for some of these people may increase 50% or more, if you can just swallow that, if you can imagine that. So I know there's at least one neighbor that is concerned that she may not be able to stay in her home. And I think that is kind of heartbreaking. So I would ask you, as you're looking at how long you might be able to stretch this out and what kind of interest rate, if you could please keep that in mind. And we very much appreciate all your help, especially I would say Mike Smith has worked so hard, and the attention you've given us, Bob, has been wonderful. So thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Kaufman. I'm going to guess you're Ella Lewis. Oh, absolutely. You can pull that microphone down.
Hi, my name is Ella Lewis, and I live on 127 Lakeshore Drive, and here are 2 poems that I wrote about the lake. Fingers paint across the water, ripples growing, getting stronger. Across the lake, across the seas, someday my ripple will return to me. The chirp of the birds, whispering trees, trickling waters, whistling breeze, cracking branches, rustling leaves, the splash of a fish, the honk of the geese, the croak of a frog, the hum of a bee, singing autumn's melody.
Nice. Thank you.
It worked out perfect that Ella had a project and she chose our lake like a week before
Perfect.
this came out. So it's perfect timing.
All right, and Nathan Lewis.
Hello, everyone. My name is Nathan Lewis. I also live on 127 Lakeshore Drive. 2 years ago, my wife asked me to look at a house, and to be honest with you, I did it just to humor her. I was kind of happy where we were. Walking through the house, we walked into the master bedroom, and I looked out the back window, looked at the lake for the first time, and I knew pretty quickly that that's where I wanted to raise my 2 girls. At the time, I bought it for the view, but I didn't know at the time just how much a part of my life that lake would become. I was raised in a city, so I went on YouTube and I taught myself how to fish. And now I'm teaching my daughters how to fish. We actually caught a 3.5-pound bass on this lake already. We also take our kayaks out. There's a heron that we try to find on the shoreline. When we get too close, it flies overhead, and we go try to find where it landed. I was out back today. I had the day off for the holidays. Like a lot of days off, I was out in the backyard working in the yard. And I looked at the lake, and I tried to imagine what it would look like if, in worst case scenario, it did end up getting drained. I walked out in that lake. The silt and the debris will come up to your knees. I lost a good flip-flop out there. And so if it gets drained, it'll be acres of mud. There'll be mud puddles and standing water and swarms of mosquitoes. And I know that the formation of this will be our best chance of keeping that from happening. So I'm in full support of the formation of this district, and the only time I'll ever say it, I'm in support of having my property taxes raised to keep this dam in place. So thank you all.
Thank you. All right, and Wayne Harmon.
Thank you. My name is Wayne Harmon. I live at 115 with my wife, 115 Lakeshore Drive. Thanks for putting this on your agenda tonight. We appreciate you doing this as soon as possible. 29 years ago, this coming Thanksgiving, we will be in our house for 29 years. So we've been in here a long time, and we just think this is a wonderful neighborhood, and it's the lake is something that we look at, and it's just every morning as we get up, we stand up, and there's the lake right there, and we love it, and we hope that you all will see fit to help us continue that for the rest of our lives anyway. So we would like to keep it this way, and we appreciate anything you can do to help. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Those are my speaker cards and people who emailed in. Now, anyone else who would like to come forward is welcome to do so.
I'm Robert Veranian. I live at 216 Lakeshore Drive. My wife and I lived there for 30 years, and 3 children finished their growing years there. I won't repeat the value of the lake to me, but that's why I moved from Spotsylvania to Stafford and have paid taxes in Stafford for 30 years now and haven't regretted it. And when this came along, I'll be honest with you, I felt like it was government overreach. And I've slowly accepted that. I think it is government overreach, but I've accepted that, and we have to move on. The value of you all doing this, I think, is that we can be partners. Secondly, each lake owner in the past has had the same dues per year, regardless of the value of that property. And I frankly think it's appropriate to have the cost of this borne by the value of the property. I think it's going to be an issue that would need to be considered when the property goes for sale, when the individual properties. It's a significant negative. On the other hand, there is this value in living on the lake that may compensate somewhat for that. And I would like to reemphasize what was pointed out earlier, that it's not only in our interest to have a nice place to look at, to run around, to row on, etc., but it's in the county's interest to maintain that, not only for the property values, but also because of the sewage system and water system that goes across that lake. And I hope that you would realize in the future, and in your consideration for interest or no interest payments, that the 19 members of the Lake Owners Association are helping foot your bill, not only in their taxes, but also in maintaining the lake to save the county money for redoing the water and sewer system. So I appreciate your interest in it, and thank you for listening to me.
Thank you, sir. All right, who else would like to speak to us on this matter? Mr. Wildowski, an opinion from the north of Stafford.
I missed my 3-minute speech, but it's okay. I'm going to stay on topic. Paul Wildowski, 8 Picket Lane. I really appreciate the comments of all the citizens, and especially the last speaker. I like your sentiments that you understand about government overreach. But there's a power beyond government overreach. My grandmother used to say, God is not making any more land, and he sure as heck is not making any more lakes. And I'm a big fan of wildlife. The cicada is my favorite animal. They come out every 13 or 17 years. And I'm kind of glad to learn about this property because it's in the George Washington District. Golly, I might even have an interest in the election of that supervisor seat. Never know. But, you know, I'm only interested in being the chairman. We are very fortunate to be in the Chesapeake Bay watershed. It's one of the most precious things in the Commonwealth. The legislators have really taken care of that aspect. These concepts of service districts are very important, especially when we have a small group who maintains a very important piece of land. And I strongly want to see a 7-0 approval of this service district. Have a happy Thanksgiving, everyone.
Thank you, Mr. Wildowski. Would anyone else like to speak to this issue? All right, I'll bring it back. I'm going to bring it back to Bob Thomas. I guess I'll close the public hearing and bring it back to Bob Thomas.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to move for approval of 017-41, and I'll have some discussion.
Second.
We have multiple seconds, and we're going into discussion.
Actually, most of the points I wanted to make were eloquently already made, so I appreciate that. As you all know, it's an honor to serve citizens, and this is one of the bright spots in my district, and I think you all just saw the best of what we have on display, so I wanted to thank everybody for coming out tonight. One of the things that was late breaking, I guess, was the possible use of the hydroturf, so that's really good news. That lowers the total amount. So last week at this time, I didn't think that was going to be possible, so I'm very glad to hear that today. You already heard the benefits. There is a road across the dam, and it's always great if fire and rescue can have 2 ways to get to a property. So we would lose that, and we have a lot of infrastructure going through the dam, which would lead me to ask that be a reason the board does consider the 0%. And the fact that we have 18 property owners for 19 parcels, I think if we don't stretch that to 20 years, I don't know how I would personally be able to absorb that. So with that, I do want to let the board know that when the homeowners approached me, they had already spent a lot of money engineering and trying to figure this out on their own. And then they had actually also cleared the whole embankment there, and so they invested a lot of money before they even reached out to me. But I wanted to thank staff who, they've done this before. So one advantage of, having the big government approach kind of coming in and partnering was that our people knew the process, they knew the rules, and Mike Smith and Keith Dayton, I think, was involved in the beginning. So I want to thank them as well, and I hope the board can support us in this.
Just to be clear, your motion does have the 0%?
Yes.
Okay. That we've had Mr. Thomas's comments. Any other comments? Mr. Snelling's.
Just a real quick, Mr. Chairman. When I was at Stafford High School in the 1960s, it was called Kennedy's Pond. And it was a favorite hangout for the high school kids, but not for fishing. I'll let y'all figure that out. So I'm going to support this. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Power?
Well, as you all know, we had this same issue up in North Stafford at the Lake Arrowhead Dam, and so I'm pleased to see that you guys are utilizing this same process, which started actually with my predecessor, Mr. Gibbons, on the Hidden Lake Dam. So I will be supporting this as I supported the dam in Lake Arrowhead.
Any other comments? Yes, we've had a couple of these service district things come before us, but nothing like this, where what appears to be every single owner is in favor of what is a really substantial commitment. So that you're unique, and of course I will support this as well. So with that, I will ask you to vote for the motion. That passes unanimously. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bob. We are on to number 26. Consider an amendment to the Stafford County Code regarding containment and removal of running bamboo.
Hey, Mr. Chairman, board members, I'm Jeff Harvey with the Planning and Zoning Department. This public hearing is basically about the county's community standards. The county has standards for maintenance of property, in particular with vegetation. Our county code stipulates how tall grass can grow within your yard, as well as overall control of brush and debris. The county code follows the state code, and the state code also allows the county to regulate bamboo in the case of what they term as running bamboo. Stafford has recently received some complaints from some residents about running bamboo impacting the use of their property and their enjoyment of their property, where their neighbors have not been properly maintaining the bamboo. Bamboo typically comes in a number of varieties, some of which are almost considered to be invasive species. They spread quickly by its root system, and unless it's contained by physical barriers, can adversely impact the use and enjoyment of the neighbor's property. So this proposed amendment would change Chapter 24 of our county code to follow the state code and allow us to regulate running bamboo similar to tall grass and other vegetation. Just for your general knowledge, if we have a complaint from a resident, they file it with the Planning and Zoning Department. We send an inspector out to look at the situation. If there is a violation, we notify the property owner and ask them to make a corrective action. If for some reason the property owner is not able to make the corrective action or is an absentee landowner, then the county will step in and have the grass cut, or in this case, the bamboo removed, and the property owner will receive a bill or addition onto their tax bill. So that's how the county will recoup the cost of doing those services. And I'll be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Any questions about the bamboo ordinance we're going to pass? Ms. Sellers.
So what if the property owner with the bamboo is there first, and somebody new moves in next door, and their new neighbor decides to file a complaint? I mean, do we not give any consideration to the people who've been there first, or would you just go out and say, yeah, your bamboo's out of control?
Well, Ms. Sellers, we would look at the situation. If the bamboo has not crossed the property line and is inconveniencing the new owner, then we look to see, is that bamboo having some other public safety concern, like affecting sight distance at an intersection or something that could affect the overall public welfare.
Any other questions?
Where did this come from? Did somebody bring this? Did somebody bring this to us? I guess is my question.
Yes, ma'am.
Mrs.
This was
Baumke
discussed
brought
at
this.
the
You want-
Community Development Committee. Ms. Baumke can give some more information.
I've actually had complaints in my district from several residents regarding the bamboo. In one situation, they said they've dug up the bamboo for 12 years, it coming from their neighbors. And they're in their 70s, and they do not want to dig up any more bamboo sprouts again, because it's very deep. It's about a foot deep to actually attack the bamboo and try to eradicate it.
Any other questions? All right, let's go ahead and open the public hearing up on this. Is there anyone in the audience who would like to speak to us on this bamboo ordinance? Bootsy?
Lisa?
All right, we'll close the public hearing, and I'll bring it back to Ms. Baumke. It is not district specific, but she's been, it's 17-42.
Okay, I move for approval of 017-42.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Ms. Sellers?
So I'm not going to support this. I mean, yeah, it's definitely a nuisance, and I think anybody who lives next door to bamboo would consider a nuisance. But have you ever had strawberries show up on your property? It's the same sort of thing. They don't go away very easily, and so I think this is almost where neighbors need to work together to eradicate this. And you can't legislate good behavior, so I won't be supporting this, but I can certainly see the problem.
Any other comments?
Yes, I'd like to make a comment. I'd just like to bring the public up to speed on bamboo. It was in the General Assembly last year. It was probably the first and only thing they've ever passed in the Senate and the General Assembly. And in the House of Delegates, that was unanimously passed to eradicate bamboo. And I would just like to read into the public record what a constituent sent me who just had triple bypass, so he wasn't able to come tonight. It says, I do hope the sentiment against the insidiously invasive foreign plant species is as overwhelming as Virginia's unanimous bill allowing its restriction was. It is not for nothing that several states have seen to outlaw bamboo completely. Miss Maurer's charming anecdote about her grandmother's advice on how to earn the ire of a neighbor makes me wonder why it has taken so long for bamboo to come under such scrutiny. Let's see. As you know, I have a lot of photos showing how invasive our neighbor's bamboo has become in spite of his limited effort to control the above ground spread by mowing during the summer. The problem is that while the above ground spread of his plant has been kept at bay, the plant sends its shoots further into our yard every spring. And then he sent some pictures.
We get it.
You get it? Okay.
If you've ever been on the other receiving side of bamboo, you understand completely, and it is not like strawberries. It is impossible to get rid of. So with that, we'll go ahead and cast our votes for or against this. And we may tally when you're ready. And that passes 6-1. And last but not least, I just wanted to, and I'm going to be sensitive here to defer into our Armed Services Commission wizard, Gary Snellings. I think we've already discussed this before, but I did have some born and raised Stafford folks start talking to me about the idea that a few of us have talked about, where we as a board would at least pay for the brick, which by the way doesn't cost us as much, for a Staffordian who was killed while serving, and there's a lot of questions that are left in that because what do you call a Staffordian? If they were born here or born in Fredericksburg and came and still lived in Stafford, because you go to Fredericksburg often to get born, or if you working out the details is not something I wanted to do tonight. I just wanted to make sure I had understood the sense of this board, that in the cases of someone we have identified as a Staffordian who died while serving our country, as a result of serving our country, that we should pay what is a small amount for their brick. Well, I wanted to,
It says killed in action.
I didn't say
but what
killed
if-
in action.
It says on there killed
I
in
know,
action.
but that's not, that's just the way that was interpreted. I said if you died as a result of serving our country. But we,
The VA thing, I would only ask, because this has come up with one of my constituents and friends, where killed in action or killed in the line of duty would be the appropriate VA terms.
killed in the line of duty. or
Killed in the line
action.
of duty or killed in action, as long as you include both of them, because that includes folks who are, hit while standing guard.
Right, that's good. So KLD, is that what, is that the acronym?
I don't know what the acronym is, but I
Well,
know
there,
it's
actually,
killed in
there
the
is,
line.
there is one for every, apparently we learned from somebody we won't name that there is there's a, there's also probably KLD, but anyway, is there any other one we're missing? I don't want to rush to this. I just want to make sure before I leave the board that this is set in motion in such a way that it will happen.
Can I make a suggestion to reach out to, there is a woman who, in the county, who's taken this on at the state level, and maybe ask her how she would approach it, just because of the issues that she's run into.
So, okay, so far killed in action, that's fine, and killed in the line of duty. And what do we call a Staffordian? I've only been here 30 years. Go ahead, Mr. Snellings.
I'm all in favor of this, but I'm going to tell you one thing, we've got to be careful. We've got to set some parameters. We've got to set the ground rules. Now, pre-1940, most Staffordиans were born at home. After that, most were born in the city of Fredericksburg. That was the only hospital. So if you go by that, you're going to have a way to qualify that person that was born in the city of Fredericksburg is actually from Stafford rather than city or Spotsylvania, where they were also born. My suggestion is, since the county is now taking this over, it'll be going to Parks and Rec. Take it and throw it to the Infrastructure Committee and let them look into it and set all the parameters before we just pass a resolution saying we're going to do it. That way, we won't have any questions. Everybody will know the parameters, everybody will know what qualifies to get the brick, and we can move on.
And but we do know, I'm assuming we do want to do it, just a matter of how we do it, right? So, and is that a motion to send it to the infrastructure, or is that necessary, or?
I don't know if a motion is necessary, but.
All right. Well, all right, let's get this over to the infrastructure, and I just think it's the one thing about that memorial that you all know I had hoped that we'd had the names of people who had died serving on the memorial, and that's just not, it turned out to be perfectly. I wouldn't change a thing, but this is a way to kind of do that at the same time. So thank you, Gary, for all your work on this, and I hope you'll continue. I believe that's our last item. All right. Thank you. Meeting is adjourned.
Thank you, Paul.